Good evening, Titans. And this is the third video in a row for an assignment. This is lesson 2.3, but hopefully there's a pretty good understanding of what's going on. Again, make sure that if you're missing the boat on some of the things in the video that you're asking in class, you're asking during our work time in class, that's very important that you're doing those things. Also, make sure you're writing down the examples and anything else that you feel you need to help you on your assignments and your quizzes. So first of all, the core concept is we're going to be solving inequalities using multiplication and the division properties. So there's two main ones, and so the first one is if we multiply or divide each side of an inequality by the same positive number, it produces an equivalent inequality. So again, for example, if negative 6 is less than 8, and we multiply both sides by 2, as we're doing right here, then we go ahead and 2 times negative 6 is a negative 12, and 2 times 8 is 16, and we still have a negative 12 is less than a positive 16. And if 6 is greater than a negative 8, and we divide both sides by 2, we get 3 is greater than a negative 4, which, again, is an equivalent inequality. So again, as long as we multiply or divide by the same positive number on each side of the inequality, we'll end up with an equivalent inequality. So if we look at a couple of examples here, with this first one we have x divided by 8 is greater than a negative 5. So to undo dividing by 8, we would multiply both sides of the inequality by a positive 8. These 8's divide out, leaving me just x is greater than a negative 40. And now I graph this. And so again, if I have a negative 40 here, I can go ahead and put negative 41 on the left side and a negative 39 on the right side. And now it's open and then shaded to the right because it's greater than. And on example 2 here, if we have 24 is greater than or equal to 3x. Now x being multiplied by 3, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3. I get negative 8 is greater than or equal to x. Now again, remember we always want to write the variable on the left, the number on the right. And now again, since the alligator was eating the negative 8, I want the big mouth open to the negative 8. And now I'm ready to graph. So I have negative 9, negative 8, negative 7, again in order from least to greatest. It's equal to this time, so I close that in, and it'll be shaded to the left because it's less than or equal to. Now, look at your examples that you just have and try to solve the following inequalities. So pause it for a moment and solve these, and then start it up again to reveal the answers. So number 1, we just multiply both sides by 7. We'd have n is greater than or equal to 7. And if we were to graph that, we'd have 6, 7, and 8. Close circle, and it'd be shaded to the right. This one we're skipping. And this one we divide both sides by 4. And we would get b is greater than or equal to 9. And now we graph that. So again, we have 9, 10, and 11. Oops, sorry about that. Let me help fix that better. We would go ahead and make this 8, 9, and 10. Close it in at 9. And then it's to the right because it's greater than. And again, make sure we shade it and we color that arrow in so we can tell that it's going to the right. Now, this is the major difference between solving inequalities and solving equations. And this is just the one thing, but it's when multiplying or dividing each side of an inequality by the same negative number, the direction of the inequality symbol must be reversed in order to produce an equivalent inequality. So for example, we look at negative 6 is less than 8. if we multiply both sides by a negative 2, in order for this to be true, because a negative times negative would be a positive 12, negative times that positive would be a negative 16. In order for this to be true, I have to make sure I reverse the inequality sign. So if you look at the first one, and now you look at this one, we had to reverse it. And again, if you look at the example here, whether we're multiplying or dividing, here we divided both sides by a negative, and so here we had 6 is greater than a negative 8. If I divide both sides by negative 2, I have to reverse the sign to now make negative 3 less than 4. So again, this only occurs when you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number. Must you reverse the inequality symbol. So if we look at this first one, y is being divided by a negative 3, so I have 2y is less than y divided by a negative 3. So I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 3. And because I'm multiplying by a negative, I must reverse that sign. And now I have negative 6 is greater than y. Remember, I like to rewrite that. And now the big mouth is eating the negative 6, so I'm going to rewrite it so it's that way. And now I graph. Negative 7, negative 6, and negative 5. It's going to be open and to the left. On letter B here, we're going to divide both sides by a negative 7 to get y by itself. And again, I must reverse that inequality sign. And I have y is greater than or equal to a positive 5. And I go 4, 5, and 6. Again, it's closed because it's just a 5, and then greater than is to the right. Greater than is to the right. So again, pause the video for a moment and solve these. When I reveal the answers, I'm not going to show the graphs this time, but I'll just reveal the solution to the inequality. Alright, welcome back. First one, we multiply both sides by a negative 4, so I'm going to get p, I have to reverse the sign, is greater than a negative 28. Next one, I divide both sides by a negative 9. And so again, I must reverse that sign, so m is less than a negative 7. Here I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 2. So again, I must reverse the sign, so it becomes r is less than or equal to a positive 11. Alright, and here's an application problem. It says you earn $9.50 per hour at your summer job. Write and solve an inequality that represents the number of hours you need to work to buy a digital camera that costs $247. So, it's $9.50 per hour. So if I multiply those two numbers, that will be how much money I earn. And I need that to be greater than or equal to $247. And now I solve and divide both sides by 9.50. And if I do that, I get h to be 26 hours. So to buy this camera, I'd have to work 26 hours in order for me to buy this camera. Exactly. So now you try. So again, look at the example that you just did and try to apply it here. Alright, welcome back. Here it says you have at most, so remember at most is less than or equal to $3.65 to make copies. Each copy costs 25 cents. And we want to know how many copies we can do for $3.65. So now I divide both sides by 0.25, which by the way is a quarter. Again, there's no negatives involved, so I don't have to reverse the sign. And then if I take 3.65 and I divide that by 0.25, my answer is 14.6. Well, that's a decimal, and obviously we can't have a sixth of a copy. So our answer is we could do at most 14 copies. We don't round up because we don't have enough money to make 15 copies. All right? So that's the thing. So again, that's solving inequalities one step in inequalities by using multiplication and division. And again, making sure the main thing is when you multiply or divide by a negative number, we must remember to reverse that inequality sign.